You're listening to I Have Some Notes, a podcast supported by listeners like you. To contribute, visit patreon.com/I Have Some Notes.
Here's my pitch for the title of a new James Bond film. The World.
No, think of something better. The world is not enough.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Welcome, everyone, to I Have Some Notes, the movie podcast with cuts, keeps, punch-ups, and tweaks on mediocre movies. I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver.
And today we are discussing The World Is Not Enough, a thrilling James Bond adventure.
Yeah. How are we feeling about this one? I feel like there was, okay, first of all, let me apologize straight up for us having to watch this particular Bond movie. Because the Pierce Brosnan movies are all, with the exception of GoldenEye, all named very, very similar. And I thought we were watching the wacky one with the Ice Palace, which is, now remind me which one that is again, because see, I've already forgotten. It's No
Tomorrow
Time to
Never Dies?
Die? No, Tomorrow Never Dies is the second one. So I think it's No Time to Die.
No Time to Die is the one that came out like a year ago.
No, you're right.
You're talking about Die Another Day.
Die Another Day, there it
go.
is.
Die Another Day. See, I'm vindicated just by the fact that this conversation is happening.
We knew we were going to have this conversation too, and we still...
So, yes, we did watch another middling James Bond movie, but it just so happens not the one that I thought that we were going to watch. To which, at some point in our recording chat, Liam was like, "Why did we watch this one?"
Well, because I think I was pushing for No Time to Die, because in our Discord, they had sort of settled on it was the middlest of the Craig movies. It was 3 of 5 good. And I'm like, well, that's the middest one. We should do that. And then I think, just through the word salad of times and dyings and the frequency in which those will occur, it all got muddled up.
Yeah. I think also you may have been slightly outvoted, because I think both me and Scott had, because I had said The World Is Not Enough, and then Scott was like, yes, let's do that. And then we were off to the races.
That was the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Settled.
The Brosnan movies are famously kind of mid overall. So, and we haven't done a Bond movie in a while. We certainly haven't done one of the Brosnan ones. And like it and like Roger Moore Bond are really right in our wheelhouse, right in our demographic. Mm-hmm. If we're looking for like a classic spy action film to do.
Do you guys remember when we had JP Fournier on a couple months ago to do Rock and Rule? And I sort of talked about how I had been a guest on his podcast many times. It's no longer posted anywhere, but he hosts a show called The Movie Jerks, though you can still follow him on YouTube. Look up The Movie Jerks on YouTube. As I was watching this movie, I'm like, why is this so familiar? Like, if I've seen this, I saw it in 1999 when it came out. Why is this? And then it dawned on me, I did this for JP's podcast as well, like a decade ago. And so I am somehow twice now been roped into talking about this movie.
But this time you're trying to fix this movie, Liam.
Yes,
so.
As opposed to try to find reasons to love it, which was the premise of The Movie Jerks. So good. I don't need to. Which
do you feel is more difficult? Fixing it or finding reasons to love it?
Hard to say, because I don't know that I ever engaged with the premise of Movie Jerks on that level.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was like an up and coming comedian. I was in my 20s, and I'm like, I'm just here to try to be funny, and dunking on this movie is gonna be the funniest thing I can do.
Right.
So yeah, hard to say. Probably for the best that none of those are available anymore. Of course, The World Is Not Enough is the title of this film, in case there is still any, misunderstanding or dispute. The World Is Not Enough came out in 1999, directed by Michael Apted, written by Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, who both wrote most of the Daniel Craig Bonds. Could have fooled me. And Bruce Fierstein, who did GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies, and of course based on the novel series by Ian Fleming. We got Pierce Brosnan as James Bond, Sophie Marceau as Electra King, Robert Carlyle as Renard, Denise Richards as Dr. Christmas Jones, Judi Dench as M, Desmond Llewellyn as Q, John Cleese as R, Samantha Bond as Moneypenny, and what a find, Greg, Colin Salmon as Robson, who we just saw in a little film called Resident Evil.
Yep.
Yeah, a little overlap there.
He's the guy who got cut up into cubes in Resident Evil. And he's back. Agent here. Yeah.
Yeah. The Colin Salmon family of film. That's what we're all about here. And I have some notes.
Going through his oeuvre.
Yeah. In which he
I think that's only ever happened once in my memory of doing this podcast, where the same actor was on 2 times in a row. Oh, no, it was that we did 2. The only other time that we've had actors or whatever back to back was when we did Solo followed by Splash, and they were both Ron Howard joints.
That sounds right. I'm sure someone in the comments is already furiously typing other episodes where we've had overlap.
Oh, I hope so. It was wonderful. How'd y'all find this one?
This, as I said, the Brosnan movies are all, with the exception of GoldenEye. GoldenEye is actually a very good movie. The rest of them are pretty mid because they're very focused on James Bond's super spy tech, first and foremost. It's just about as cartoonish as some of the Roger Moore stuff, and the version of Bond that Brosnan plays is just super suave because he's Pierce Brosnan. He's super sexy. And so, like, they're enjoyable overall. They're very watchable, but it's very popcorn fare. You don't want to look too hard or scrutinize the movie too hard, or it's going to start to fall apart pretty quickly. And that's definitely the case here. There is a lot to like in this movie. There's a lot of little things that I feel like the movie is doing right, or really good ideas that the movie's playing with. It just doesn't execute on them to their fullest extent. And there's problems, I guess would be the best way to put it. That's my perspective. As someone who's seen every James Bond movie, this one's right in the middle. It's in that chunk in the middle where it's like, it's fine. It definitely could be better.
Yeah, that's fair. I often find when movies are a bit incoherent or sort of sloppy, I get a little, I don't know if offended is the right word, but like I don't like it when movies insult my intelligence. And this one, I didn't care. Like, it's like when a kid makes fun of you, where you're like, this, hey, you're not, it doesn't bother me.
I sometimes find that, like, when something doesn't make sense to me in a movie, it's kind of like someone hit a bunch of dominoes and suddenly all the dominoes have fallen and I don't I feel like I've not understood the film at all by the time I get to the end, even though like maybe 1 or 2 things have gone wrong. Like, I don't know. I just like get hyper fixated on like the thing that I didn't understand. And
that's fair. I guess that's sort of what I meant by like, I don't care. Whereas like, I'm kind of the same way. Like normally I start being like, well, if that's true, then this must be true. And but that doesn't make, and this movie, I'm like, I don't care.
It's an episode of a cartoon, basically. It doesn't need to make sense.
Yeah. I don't care to unpack the sort of narrative mystery. I mean, we're going to have to, that's the point of this podcast. Yeah. But like, maybe that's what it was. Maybe as we were watching, I'm like, well, I know I'm going to have to, untangle this mess with the gang on Mike. So while I'm watching it, I'm just going to turn my brain off and watch boats go down mountains.
I will say this. Anita has seen this movie probably at least 3 times at this point, having sat through it with me when we were rewatching it for the podcast. And she could have sworn that Denise Richards had a bit part in this movie. She was surprised that she was top billed. She was like, Denise Richards has like a barely speaking role in this film. And despite this being the third time she'd watched the movie, had totally forgotten that Dr. Christmas Jones is actually a pivotal character. And like Denise Richards had just slid off her brain. And she was like, I could have sworn she was in she was in one scene.
I think in the tube.
Like I didn't have necessarily a bad time watching The World Is Not Enough. Partly because Aaron and I were clowning on it a whole bunch, which I think is contributed to me feeling like I had lost the plot a bit and had to furiously, dig into like wikis and plot summaries just to make sure that I was up to speed on what the actual chain of events were supposed to be.
This is accurate. Greg posted like 3 or 4 times in our group chat to clarify a plot point that he was hung up on for hours.
This was that initial domino that I was just referring to. Like, it really
was a minor throwaway line, and he was just absolutely fixated. It was great.
We did eventually. I eventually solved my own mystery, but it did take some significant digging, and so it'll be fun to chat about that once we get past the plot summary here.
Let's go to the plot summary now then.
Renard is behind this.
He will die along with everyone in the city.
We do not negotiate with terrorists.
His only goal is chaos.
For the world's greatest secret agent.
You've defused hundreds of these, right?
When the stakes are high.
Yeah, but they're usually standing still.
Life's full of small challenges.
And the danger hits too close to home.
He has M.
By noon tomorrow, you'll feel nothing at all.
I thought it was your job to protect me.
It's not just professional.
Someone's tampered with the bomb!
It's personal.
I have to get it back, or somebody's gonna have my butt.
First things first.
The world is not enough.
Electra King is kidnapped and held ransom by KGB agent turned terrorist Victor Zokis, aka Renard. Presumably, Renard needs Scratch for further terroristing. Electra has other plans, however. Spurned by her oil magnate father and MI6's own M for not rescuing her, she reversed Stockholm Syndrome's Renard to join her cause. That cause? Destroying all her oil competitors with a nuclear blast that leaves her queen of the oily seas. Agent 009 soon catches up with Renard and places a bullet in his brain. A bit too gently, it seems, as the bullet only manages to kill Renard's senses, allowing him to push himself to the physical brink without fear of pain or exhaustion. That's obviously not how the body works, but don't think about it too hard, because Renard has killed 009, and now a vengeful nuclear heist is afoot. We don't actually see anything we just explained, mind you. You've heard about screenwriting? Well, this is off-screen writing. Bond, James Bond, under the impression Renard is seeking revenge on MI6 and Electra, is deployed to protect her. A series of spy-fueled hijinks ensue in which 007 fails to prevent the theft of plutonium and is nearly killed attempting to disarm a decoy bomb laid by Electra herself. With the help of nuclear physicist Christmas Jones, Bond must find Renard's nuclear submarine and prevent Russian oil interests from going belly up, or save the world, or whatever.
So I want to talk about backstories and how they are filled in. I'm going to oversimplify and say, like, there's basically like 2 types of ways you can elucidate a backstory. Like, and I categorize them as seen and unseen. Mm-hmm. A scene backstory, typically, you get it through flashbacks and things like that. They can be really fun and effective. You get to dole out the information slowly throughout your film. You could have fun with being a kind of unreliable narrator in the edit and, purposely leave out information as thing goes along or whatever. And of course, an unseen backstory can also be super effective because it could be the backstory that's told just through the expressions of a character on screen. Like you have a scene where a man in a public place looks over at a kid and recoils the other way, and like, boom, that is a father with who might have lost a child, right? You get that stuff really. So there's lots of great ways to play with these sort of unseen ways. And The World Is Not Enough doesn't do, like, it's all unseen. And so much so that, like, there's so much unseen stuff that, like, it feels like that was the better movie that we didn't get to experience.
So you mean like what happened between Elektra and Renard, and what
Yeah, I mean that's why in my plot summary I very purposely wrote half of it as just the stuff we didn't see, because it is a very complex plot that's going on there, and I feel that it would have been much better served as something we saw rather than something we didn't.
Yeah, agreed. Especially because this information is doled out as if our spy is discovering this information, but really he's just doing some busy work, and then he gets told new information. Then he does some busy work, and then he gets told new information. So yeah, you're right. It's. I chuckled when you were describing the first part, though, because that is everything you're saying about, like, oh, these flashbacks where maybe some of it's deliberately obtuse or left out. That it still has to be done well, because what you're describing was Resident Evil.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we've had back to back 2 examples of how not to do it. That's
how not to do seen and unseen.
Yeah.
I do take a little bit of issue saying that Bond doesn't make some logical deductions during the course of the movie, because he does. But you are right that he does get fed a lot of that information too. And it would be much more interesting if he was actually piecing together a mystery.
Also, the work, the busy work that Liam just mentioned, when he's figuring out the connection between the money of the oil magnate and Renard, like, that feels horribly lame to me. Like, there's just a scene where he goes on the computer and then he looks at, like, the exchange rate between pounds and US dollars, and then they like match up, and he's like, eureka. And he makes like a wild assumption that it's like some sort of message that Renard is sending through that. And it just none of it feels like cool or interesting. James Bond does not seem smart by doing this, in my opinion. Aaron and I were laughing at that quite a bit.
That's a great example. Yeah.
There is some stuff that I do like in this movie.
Please.
And that is specifically the characters of Elektra and Renard in theory. Again, I don't know that they were necessarily executed correctly, but when you take into context the James Bond formula and the era of Pierce Brosnan's James Bond, Brosnan was a super sexy Bond. He was irresistible to ladies. That was almost his superpower. And having a villain in Elektra who weaponizes that against him is a great idea. Having the Bond girl be the bad guy, genius. I think that one of the big stumbling blocks is then throwing in a second Bond girl so that Bond can still get a lady at the end. And we'll get to that. But having the Bond girl be the villain in this particular era, especially, great. And Renard is actually super henchman coded right from jump, because every henchman in Bond is some weirdo with like a facial deformity who's got a crazy superpower. And Renard literally has all that. So if you're paying attention, you're going, well, he can't be the main villain because he's obviously a henchman. And so it's a nice little bit of sleight of hand there. Because he is, in fact, the henchman, but he's set up as the villain originally. So I think that that's a fun play on the formula. Again, I don't know that the script pulls it off, but in concept, that is a good idea.
Very true. And yeah, they really don't. It's funny. The first time there is any suspicion subtextually that Elektra might be lying or pulling the strings, like the first time the camera lingers on her looking suspicious, the next scene is the scene we meet Denise Richards' character, is when we meet Dr. Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, here's like
Here's the replacement.
You're like,
here's the consolation.
Here's the
prize.
replacement Bond girl. So yes, my suspicions are true. Like,
yeah. And this is one of my fixes is I'll just say right now to remove Dr. Christmas Jones. And I have a replacement for her that I'm quite pleased with. But, yeah, I think that one of the ways that the movie falls down is that Bond still gets the girl at the end. And I think that the stronger choice would be he kills the girl at the end in this case and doesn't get one. So.
Yeah, I mean he does kill the girl,
but then
rather
he still
coldly
gets the girl.
too.
Yeah, but then he still gets the girl.
Yeah,
you're
not wrong that undercuts it a bit.
Yeah, I even kind of like the idea that the one way he could hurt Renard was by killing Elektra because he's the man who feels no pain. Nothing can touch him.
Right, yeah.
But emotionally, he's actually very vulnerable. So again, the smart ideas the movie's playing with. It doesn't go far enough. It's kind of jumbled in how it's executing on it. Could be better.
Yeah. What did you think of the Russian guy character?
You're talking about Robbie Coltrane?
Yeah.
He's actually returning from a previous movie, so he's a recurring character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he in GoldenEye?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it might just be GoldenEye. I don't recall.
Because I realized in this conversation here, one of the first big action set piece is the cold open, like it always is, great, whatever. But then the next big action set piece is the snowboarding or the boats going down the mountain while they're skiing. And those are guys pretending to kill Elektra or trying to kill Bond and Elektra, whatever. Like, it's them getting attacked while Bond thinks he's talking to a safe person.
Yeah.
And then the other big set piece is the caviar factory with the wood chopping saw blades on the helicopter. And that is a bunch of guys coming to kill Robbie Coltrane. Like a lot of the action beats are literally just like guys coming to stop someone from telling Bond information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, cause that whole, as fun as that caviar scene is, I'm like, why are we fighting and who are we fighting? And why are we at a caviar factory? Like,
yeah, it does feel a little bit like, well, obviously a bunch of instruments have to show up now. And,
I described it to Anita as some of the set pieces in this movie feel very Mission Impossible. And I don't mean that in the sense that they're fantastic stunts. I mean that in the sense that somebody sat down and went, I want to see this in the movie, I want to see this in the movie, and I want to see this in the movie. And then came up with a way to string those things together.
Sounds very accurate. Yeah.
That mountain ski scene made me laugh quite a bit because the ski / paratrooper, like, I don't know what that was. It was kind of like one of those bayou boats hooked up to a parachute, and immediately the thing that could become the vehicle's nemesis immediately happened because there was trees everywhere, and these things follow Bond into the trees, and that's why it's so impractical. Like, what an impractical vehicle.
Every other time they chase him down the mountain, it's on snowmobiles, like not insane people.
Yeah. Just like it went wrong in exactly the way that you would expect it to go wrong, and it just feels so ridiculous. I don't know, and like
that's I think to what Scott was saying, where it's like, I want to see fan boats down a mountain, and it's like, I guess I guess they parachute in some fan boats.
It's like somebody went like, well, snowmobiles we've seen before, and those were boring, but what if they were attached to parachutes? Holy cow, would that be something?
Then we'll get the snowmobiles going down the beach. It'll be great.
And they'll be attached to paragliders.
Well, even the boat chase in the cold open it feels very like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there was a boat chase? Like, it doesn't really feel like there's a real purpose to it. Like, even him catching the assassin it doesn't really amount to anything. And granted, it's the cold open, but still, like, it doesn't really further the plot in any interesting way. It doesn't establish any characters. It's just an excuse to have Bond drive around in a speedboat and shoot a missile. Yeah.
I also wasn't sure what Cigar Lady was doing there. Like, it seemed to me like she had succeeded already. So, like, what was she doing outside of the MI6's headquarters? Just waiting for someone to peek their head out of the exploded hole.
I guess to make just to make sure that the oil tycoon was dead.
In the boat scene, the cold open too, in your boat chase, is there a period where the boat is on land and not water? Sure. It is on land way too long. It is on, like, it goes through, like, one... I mean, if it had just gone through, like, one building and then back in the water, I'd been like, okay, pretty fun. But he's, like, driving it around corners.
Yeah. Also, the cold open is too long. Like, a cold open should be punchy. It should reintroduce you to the character, get you pumped for the rest of the movie. And this one just kind of drags. Like, there's too much going on.
I think it's 14 minutes
credits.
long. Yeah. It goes on quite a bit.
She gets into a balloon and you're like, oh my God, now there's a balloon chase. Oh, thank God she's dead. Oh,
and then she blows herself up. Yeah.
Another impractical vehicle to use as a method for escape.
Well, they were going to do balloons on the mountain and they were like, well, that's stupid, but we got to put the balloon somewhere.
we spent all this money on a balloon.
Yeah. Like, it is... And I don't know, maybe it's just the ones that I've chosen to watch, but by and large, this is how I feel about most Bond movies, is that it is very, very silly, and I have I just don't know that I've ever seen it good, you know? I've never seen Bond good, and I think I mentioned in the last time that we did a Bond movie, which was Moonraker, right? Another very, very silly entry. And yeah, like I don't engage well with this particular franchise. And I blame part of that on some of the silliness, part of it on the chauvinistic nature of the whole series. It's not that, like, you know, you can't have like a womanizing character or whatever, but it just, like, I don't know, like I'm not much of a man's man myself, you know, like I'm comfortable in my gender and my sexuality and stuff like that, but like I don't really consider myself like a man's man. So like I just don't really identify with the character a whole lot. He doesn't speak to me.
It's a certain power fantasy that like appeals to like people who read GQ, as opposed to a power fantasy of like superhero power fantasy or like a rugged, like I'm watching like a John Wick, like a much more of a cool, rugged kind of, like, it's for guys who really, you know, want to be tough and cool, but also well dressed and fuckable. And it's as opposed to like tough and cool and rugged and badass and creative, or tough and cool and what have you, right? Like,
yeah.
I will say, Greg, I promise you there are some decent James Bond movies. I'm sorry that you haven't seen them yet. I will expose you to them at some point. But yes, there are more of them that are mid or bad than there are truly good ones.
Yeah, quite liking Thunderball enough to have read the Ian Fleming novel. It's the only Fleming novel I've read, but Thunderball's rad, and the book Thunderball is rad.
I even at one point I went and watched Dr. No just to like, let's see where this thing began. And I was like, no, I still don't get it. I know I've seen and liked Skyfall, but I don't remember much about it. Like these movies bounce off of me.
That's fair.
They're popcorn fare. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've watched lots of popcorn fare that has stuck with me. So yeah, like,
or that you were a fan of, like, appealed to your sensibilities.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm afraid that maybe I'm not the best person to be attempting to revamp Bond, because I just or maybe I am. Maybe my distance from the character gives me an advantage in some way.
You're exactly the injection of fresh ideas that this particular movie needed.
Well, let's say we go fix this thing then.
What's up, nerds? This is Josh from Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and so much more. Every week, we break down the latest blockbuster movies, TV shows, revisit comic events. We even talk to comic creators like Kyle Higgins, Melissa Flores, and Matt Groom. And don't miss out on our Superhero Showdown episodes where we debate your suggestions on who would win in a fight, or maybe they might become friends. So join in on the conversation with me, Josh, and my co-host Alex every Wednesday on your podcatcher of choice. Look for our yellow and red icon, and we'll see you soon, Smackheads.
Welcome back to I Have Some Notes. We are fixing The World Is Not Enough. Who's going to start us off?
I had mentioned already that I like Elektra and I like Renard, so I don't really want to change too much about what they're about. I just think there's a better way to execute them, and I do think that Greg's I have a feeling Greg's going to address some of the backstory in his fixes, so I'm not going to get my fingers into that. But if he is, I like where he's going with that. What I will say though is that number one, I want Renard to have more time to cook. He gets established with this ridiculous superpower, but then it's mostly just used for texture. Yeah. Like he doesn't really do anything with it. And I think there needs to be some more substantial moments where he squares off against Bond and is just unstoppable. And that poses Bond a problem so that we get to that final confrontation with them, and Bond and Renard should be smug and should be really like confident the whole time up until Bond tells him, oh, Elektra's dead. And that's the thing that finally hurts him. And that puts him off his game. And that gives Bond the opportunity to defeat him. And I think that you need to set that up better by giving him more opportunities to be just this unstoppable, implacable man. Like nothing Bond is throwing at him is stopping him. You make him Novocaine from the Novocaine movie we just did. Yeah. Have him get hurt and then use that to his advantage. Like just nuts stuff. Just let him cook.
If I may, also maybe something, his ability to not feel pain is integral to the plan. Like he's got to be the one to handle something really hot, like some hot nuclear thing that he can. Yeah. He's the only one who can pick it up in the 10 seconds. It's got to go from point A to point B or something like
that's perfect. That's a great idea. The other thing that I mentioned off the top that I didn't like was Dr. Christmas Jones. Sorry, Denise Richards, you're out. I don't want Bond to have a consolation prize. I want Elektra to be the Bond girl and to betray him and to be the villain and for her to end up dead at the end. And that's just the price of playing in this particular movie. Bond's formula of being the ladies' man is weaponized against him, and it hurts him. And that's just, it sucks. That's the way it goes in this movie. But that means that he still needs someone who's an expert in technology to help him. And I will preface this by saying I don't know how practical this would be in production in the time, but this is Q's last movie. Let Q off the bench.
Interesting.
Have Q go out in the field and help Bond with the nuclear stuff. Have Q get kidnapped just to take it back. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself because then when the pipe blows up, M is devastated thinking she's lost both 007 and Q, like two of her top guys. Yeah. And then Renard can still kidnap Q and bring him into the submarine. So Q can still be there for the final encounter. And if you really want Q to go out as a hero, he could die. He could sacrifice himself toward the end, and it would suck, but it would be a wonderful send off for him to go out as a hero, right? Yeah. Because it's the actor's last movie. You're setting up John Cleese to take over. Let him off the bench. My only concern is practically he was a very old man and he might not have been able to do it. But theoretically, from a storytelling standpoint, I think that it would have been cool.
Can I run with that a little bit? Because I think, let's say it isn't practical. An old Llewellyn there can't, do a whole summer of shooting. Instead of introducing another old British white guy to replace him, funny as John Cleese is, quick bonus note, give him something funny to say. All of his jokes in this suck. Fucking let him improvise. It's John Cleese. Like, why is he not funny in this movie? Anyway, instead of John Cleese replacing him, a younger person, perhaps even maybe that not somebody sleeps, but like a hot lady, or a young person, anyone that's not John Cleese is the replacement for Q, and that is who accompanies him as the expert.
I'm even
we've got to replace Q. We're going to give you some field training. Go with Bond to do this nuclear stuff. Ben Whishaw or whatever,
Yeah. No, I'm perfectly okay with that too. You've got tech experts in the movie, and Q doesn't need to just be there to throw off some jokes at the beginning and show Bond what his new watch does. You could have him go in the field and do some stuff. And I think that this was a missed opportunity to do that. And as you say, if it's impractical for an 80-plus-year-old man to be hurtling through an oil pipeline on a very fast-moving conveyor, you can have his young replacement do it. I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, I love that.
That was some of my big stuff, Greg.
Well,
I'm calling on you to fix this backstory.
I have some nebulous ideas, and we'll see if you guys can play off of them. But I really do think that what we are largely told should actually be in the movie, and I think that it can be really fun if the whole kidnapping plot happens not only on screen, but we get to play with the whole like quote unquote Stockholm syndrome angle of things, where Electra King is kidnapped by Renard, and Renard convinces her that his cause is righteous. Something the West is putting its thumb on Russia, whatever, and the twist being that she has done this, she's in this to play him, and that she turns the table on him, and thus turns the table on Bond himself. Because like you could have, because in this movie M knows the King family, it could be a thing where Bond also knows them. He's familiar with Electra. This is a person that he's known previously, and has been kidnapped, putting her in danger, makes him feel all sorts of things. But also now, she seems to be working with him, and that is causing all sorts of stress on Bond. So that you can kind of put him in this position where he's got to do the typical save the girl Bond thing, but then the knife is dug even further when it turns out that she is the actual true villain of the whole thing. And I've been basically like sort of playing with what Scott had mentioned earlier in the show about how it's a great way to reverse the format for Bond.
Yeah, weaponizes.
I also like kind of the 3-act structure of her arc there, because if you have her get kidnapped and that's the initial, you can even have that be the cold open if you want. And so you have her as the damsel in distress. Bond saves the day. They don't pay the ransom, but he's the one sent in to go and save her. Renard can still have been shot prior to this. That can be backstory, but
yeah.
But then you have, hold on. I'm going to put a pin in that because my brain just flared up on that. But Act 1, you have her get rescued. Act 2, she's thankful. She's grateful. Everything seems to be good, but there's some suspicion that there's some Stockholm syndrome. That maybe now she's undermining her dad's empire, and she might be helping Renard, who got away. And then the 3rd act twist, she turned Renard, and he's helping her enact a scheme to make herself the most powerful and rich person in the world. And so you get that, you get like the suspicion and then almost the double twist. She's not working for the bad guy. She is the bad guy.
Yeah.
I was going to say still have Renard be shot in the backstory, but the more I think about it, if the cold open is her getting rescued, Bond shoots Renard. And so now it's personal. Renard wants Bond because Bond gave him this death sentence with this slow-moving bullet in his brain. And more importantly, Bond has also made him more powerful because now he doesn't feel pain.
Okay. Yeah. Like, yes, I'm as excited by this idea as you are, except it does sort of undermine why he is willing to go and die with the nuke. Because I guess it doesn't. He can decide he's got his time's up. He's a dead man walking after Bond shoots him in the head. Forget that, because that was the thing that when I was complaining about how they don't use his can't feel pain thing the way they do in Novocaine. The other thing is that he knows he's going to die any minute, so he's happy to do a suicide mission for Electra,
a woman who
that's still can happen. In fact, maybe Elektra uses that to her advantage.
Oh, she's a manipulative shit. She's absolutely using him. Yeah. So yes, absolutely.
It could be. I mean, the kind of like the expectation from MI6 could be like, oh, Renard is trying to destroy Western pipelines, and then they discover like, oh, like that the submarine isn't where we think it is. It's in Istanbul. They're why are they targeting all the Russian ones? And that's sort of like how you get to the realization that Elektra has turned Renard.
Yeah. And Bond could even be suspicious through the second act that Renard is aimed at him because of the bullet. And that he's using Elektra and the Stockholm Syndrome to get close to Bond, to get another, to kill him.
Revenge, yeah.
But then, of course, it turns out there's a bigger scheme at play and Elektra's the mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's more misdirection. There's more opportunity for Bond to get played, which is an important part of the story, I feel. And then for him to figure out what's really going on.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it actually opens up the opportunity for Elektra to wind up on the sub itself towards the end. And then we could get like a really fun sort of like villainous speech at the end about her particular worldview,
Oh, sorry. I was just going to cut you off only because I feel like if she's on the sub, then she's going to die. And her plan is to live and be the richest, most powerful person in the world.
Hey,
so
I have a solution for that when I went,
okay,
we're subverting Bond stuff. How often in these movies does the bad guy take the Bond girl and is like, you're going to have to chase me because I've got the girl, and lead all three of them into danger? If Renard is simping for Elektra, Bond is the one who brings her kicking and screaming onto the sub so that he can use her as leverage to get what he needs out of Renard.
I actually like that twist, yeah. But then, of course, Bond is in double danger because she manages to slip away from him. And she's also gunning for him at that point. Yeah, that's a nice twist on the formula.
Yeah.
I have 3 really cool, like real notes, like scenes where I was annoyed at specifics.
Sure.
So I'll just bang these out quickly. When he is flirting with Elektra early on, after the funeral, but before they get chased by boats down a mountain, they do all of the flirt. He sort of like guilelessly follows her up the mountain and then finds out, oh, we're going on a ski trip. And it's not until they're like at the top of the mountain in the helicopter or even on skis that they start flirting. They should just have been flirting when they met and then go skiing. Why would you go randomly skiing with someone you haven't flirted with yet? It just doesn't like.
Yep. I'm sorry, that scene, that whole thing reminds me that there is something that's brought up at the end of that, where there's an avalanche and Bond uses his inflatable suit that he got from Q to save them from the avalanche, right? And then Elektra is freaking out because she's kind of claustrophobic or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't come back up again, right? But if, like you said, Liam, Elektra is dragged onto the sub, that's the opportunity to have her go through. Then that would actually kind of pay off in some way.
Sick.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got some mileage out of that because I was just like, it just felt inorganic to start the flirting once they're already down the mountain.
So more flirting before the mountain and then pay off the claustrophobia.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
Like it.
In the caviar scene, the caviar farm scene, Bond summons his self-driving car. Very cool. Classic Bond gizmo. 1999. We don't have self-driving cars yet. Very fun. It has a manual transmission. And you see the stick shift like a robot arm. Just that pissed me off.
Just make it automatic.
I think that's just like a good like visual thing. Like it just really helps sell that it's a self-driving car. Like I get why that's done, and I also get why you think it's stupid. But like like sometimes you just need a good visual to sell your gag.
Yeah.
I will say, BMW paid a lot of money for that car to be in 2 minutes of the movie before it is cut in half. Instead of a boat chase at the beginning, How about a nice car chase with a sweet Bond car? Have him do something. Have him do something that would allow him to use the self-driving car, like riding on top of it, shooting a gun. Like, pay that off a little more. Set up the car earlier, and then have it get cut in half later on. You think, oh, he's going to use the self-driving car again, and it gets destroyed immediately.
That's fun.
That's like a punchline to a joke right there. Yeah.
Take that. And then there's a scene again where it's like, I understand, much like showing the gear shift moving so that visually you understand the car is shifting. There's a scene where Emma's in the cell. She's trying to get her clock. She knocks the clock over, and now she's cooked because she's, the clock is too far away. And then later, Elektra and someone else come in, and M's like, well, what time is it? And they pick up the clock and give it to her, not knowing that was a little mind game, and now she's got the clock she needs to escape. That is all fine. Can anyone tell me, and this is less of a question for you guys and more for the screenwriters, why Elektra entered that room at all in the first place?
No.
There's no reason. They just walk in to get played by M and hand her the clock. So there should be literally any reason for them to enter that room.
Yeah, she could have just walked in to gloat because she's winning. Like, and that would have been good.
Like she doesn't, she kind of doesn't come in to gloat even. She's just like sort of wanders in.
Oh, I thought this was the closet. I will say one thing we don't really discuss structurally in our earlier fixes is how M and Oil Tycoon King fit into it. Elektra's dad.
Mm-hmm.
I do think if we have the cold open be the kidnapping, then during the last part of Act 1, as we move into the suspicion that Elektra might be Stockholm syndroming,
mm-hmm.
the senior king still dies at that point. Like, he's grateful for the thing. She seems that maybe she starts to seem a little resentful because there was no ransom paid, and then he ends up dead, and they think that it's Renard still coming after the family. It is Renard still coming after the family,
and that it can even
not for the reason they think.
Not for the reason they think, and they're like, oh, well, that's maybe like, well, how did Renard get that? Someone must be helping him.
Exactly.
Oh my God, what if she has Stockholm syndrome?
Yes. Yeah. And then, of course, because M and the Kings are still very good friends, and M was the one who said, don't pay the ransom, I'll send Bond. M is still in the crossfires and still ends up being captured in the third act. So it still all works.
If you will indulge me, I did have those 3 little micro notes. I have a pitch for a more or less a page 1 rewrite inspired by possibly my biggest problem with this movie.
Sure.
And it's something very small, but it inspired something I'm quite excited to share. At the very end of the movie, the literal last joke, Bond is sleeping with Dr. Christmas Jones. And everyone at MI6 can see them on the heat lamp or the heat thing. Satellite. And John Cleese has this incredibly cringy line where he goes, must be a premature version of the Millennium Bug that's causing this fun technical error. And that's not how the Millennium Bug works. Even without the hindsight that we have post-2000.
Yeah.
It was not a virus. It was a system malfunction. Computers were going to think that the year was 0 and implode because computers weren't like, it wasn't going to be able to handle the numbers. It wasn't a virus going around. It was a computer bug and a computer virus are 2 different things, whereas a viral bug is the thing we can get. Right? All right. So I hate that line. I hated it when I saw it with the movie tricks. I hated it now. And I also didn't particularly like any part of this movie. So I have a pitch for a Bond movie that specifically would only work in 1999. So if you'll indulge me here, our villain of the movie knows that all of the fears about the Y2K bug or the Y2K problem are unfounded. It's not going to be a problem, as we know now, and as most reasonable people knew in 1999, that it wasn't going to be a problem. So their sinister plan is to release a virus that grants them control of every computer system world all at once under the cover of the Y2K bug. And we have MI6 and Bond like scratching their heads trying to figure out why would you want to attack every computer at once when everyone is braced for such an event, right? That's sort of the early mystery that Bond's trying to figure out. And the reason the villain's doing this, because it's also one of the only times in all of history where, yes, everyone is ready for global system failure, but it's also the one time no one would suspect sabotage. Everyone's expecting organic system failure, so no one would expect deliberate system failure. The sort of Act 2 twist, though, is that the discovery is that the virus isn't what takes control. The virus that they've been chasing, that they've been trying to figure out for the first half of the movie, is not the thing that's going to give our villain control. It's a distraction, and it's busy work for everyone that would respond to a Y2K disaster. And as they're distracted, our villain and his team of hackers target very specific assets like bank funds, weapons, confidential government data, all things that they can then use to hold the world ransom when the dust settles.
I think it's a fine plot for a villain. The only thing that I'm having trouble envisioning is where the action pieces would rest with this particular
Well, this
plot.
movie just dropped in random action pieces that are unrelated to the plot, so my version can as well.
Well, obviously, I mean, this is a simple solution. The hacker has some heavies who are helping him out. So you have at least one henchman with a weird facial feature and a ridiculous superpower who Bond needs to square off against in a couple set pieces as he's making his way to the hacker. The hacker can have an army of mooks, guys in anonymous masks, like that works. You could have like a 90s hackers action scene where like three people are all hammering on a keyboard at the same time to stop something from downloading. Like a lot of the action beats kind of write themselves. I can see a gunfight in a server farm.
I figured that the Act 3 one where all the weapons and funds and confidential data are getting aggregated to the big score, the big nuclear device they're going to steal, can be the third act set piece. You're right. I didn't really think of the set pieces for the beginning part of it, but what I will, the little detail I failed to, not fail, but withheld to hear your thoughts. This villain is like a 2000s sort of tech nerd coded, like a little Matrix-y, a little like kind of like a modern villain. And he does have a weird facial thing or like weird fucked up face. He's got a scar down his eye. His name is Ernst Blofeld, and he is using the Spectre network to get all of his, do all of the targeted asset stealing while everyone is distracted by the fake Y2K bug.
Yeah, if you want to get it deep into the Bond weeds, that's one way to do it. I will say the plot does rub up a little bit against Tomorrow Never Dies. Okay. Where the villain is a media mogul who's trying to manipulate the world using fake news by starting a war with China. Why how fantastical. How that would never happen in real life. Laughable plot.
You should mention timely things from movies that are 30 years old. I was as one of the sort of early plot beats that I want to pitch you with my, if you guys are on board for my vision. I was listening to the podcast Behind the Bastards recently, and they were talking about people kind of losing their mind to like AI psychosis, and specifically how it sort of emulates some the same behavior used by cults. It's a great episode. You should go listen to it. But they have an aside where one of the first times where a bunch of people sort of collectively failed the Turing test, sort of unknowingly, and started so almost the first documented case of AI psychosis was in the 90s when someone was testing an early chatbot, and either as a troll or accidentally, this early chatbot spat a bunch of gibberish words into a bunch of disparate Usenet servers. And instead of everyone going, oh, well, a bunch of weird random bullshit's been posted to a bunch of different Usenet servers, there's probably a logical explanation. Everyone sort of talked themselves into thinking, well, this is all spy code. Oh yeah, this is like a signal station, right? And which is a real thing. There are radio stations broadcasting numbers and letters that don't make any sense unless you have the cipher. And so people talk themselves into thinking that this is some kind of code. And so in my version, it is actually spy code. It is Ernst Blofeld and the Spectre network disseminating information through sort of unmonitored Usenet forums in the early 90s internet that MI6 maybe isn't, like, channels that MI6 isn't monitoring.
I like your movie pitch. It is not The World Is Not Enough. So I am going to suggest the name Die Today, because it sounds like Y2K. And it uses the word die and it uses the word today, so it's a perfect Bond title.
I do like that. I actually was still going to call it The World Is Not Enough because, you know, he's stealing all of these assets, these weapons, these files, these things, and he's going to use it to hold the world ransom. But also he's got a vendetta against Bond. He doesn't just want to take the world. He wants to kill Bond because, frankly, the world is not enough. Was my
yeah.
None of the titles are good. I don't know why they don't justify them. I don't know why we do.
You don't like
and then
Quantum of Solace?
The last little detail here, I keep Denise Richards. She is still our Bond girl and our expert. Except she, instead of being a nuclear technician, she is like a grad student or something at Stanford or MIT. And I'm only mentioning this. It's only relevant because now she's wearing like a pencil skirt and a blouse and glasses as like a data scientist and not the army fatigues we see her in. And that's just for me. That's for me.
There you go.
I'd rather look like a sexy librarian than a sexy army.
Seeing as we just kicked Denise Richards out of The World Is Not Enough, I'm okay with her appearing as the Bond girl in Die Today.
Die 2K, yeah. Die today, yeah. Cool. Thank you for that. I didn't really have fixes, but I really wanted to use the Y2K thing in a way that was less stupid than John Cleese's really weak joke.
It's Die number 2 day. I just want to be clear.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Ooh.
All right.
That's the Bond movie that could only happen in 1999.
Right on.
And it's time for listener comments. It's that hour. The clock has struck midnight. That's the other reason this is a great idea. Sorry, there was one other detail. It gives the movie a literal ticking clock. Yep. There's already cooked into the plot. They have to do it by midnight, December 31st, 1999. Anyway,
and because it's right before New Year's Eve, you can bake in more Christmas jokes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yes. Hell yeah. Okay, great. Have there any been Bond movies set at Christmas time?
I don't think so.
Seems like a easy set piece thing to do. Anyway. Those are comments.
You could have a fun Christmas set piece, and then this Bond movie would be a die-hard Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Die Today is a Christmas movie. I will die on that hill.
Die on That Hill is the sequel.
It's time for listener comments. Thank you to everyone who contributed. We mostly source these from our Discord, but keep your eye on our social medias as well. We love to hear from listeners of all stripes, but seriously, y'all, get in the Discord. It's a good time.
Yep.
Bogo Load says the best parts of the movie are when Bond interacts with Q, M, and Moneypenny. I'd trim the first chase scene and make Elektra always a villain and shoot to come in under 90 minutes. Possibly cut the first chase entirely.
I mean, Elektra is always a villain in this movie, Bogo Load. You just don't know until the end.
Yeah, but like an obligatory one.
I think I agree with the first chase needs to be trimmed down. We even discussed it earlier. The cold open's too long. Tack says, in my mildly humble opinion, the biggest problem with Twine, that is, The World Is Not Enough, is structural. Everything is just a little too nebulous to feel like there is a plot progression before Elektra's heel turn. Lots of setup, but not much that feels like movement. And after she drops the act, the ploy is pretty straightforward. And I'm not sure how to fix that. I think you'd need a real writer or something. I mean, we took a pretty good crack at it, and I think that we came up with a nice way to fiddle with that. Back to Tack, he says, so I'm going to once again fix the element everyone else will likely cut, Mrs. Xmas Jones herself. Yeah, you got us, Tack. We cut her. We cut her from our version of the movie.
Called it.
I would make Jones one of Elektra's personal assistants. She's initially introduced as a test for Bond. She's testing his resolve, but also maybe his taste in women. Regardless, he doesn't take the bait. Later, Jones will be a red herring, seeming to be the mole Bond is looking for. He's given a few too many clues that lead to her, which makes him more suspicious, or else she's an unwitting go-between for Elektra and Renard. Elektra will insist that Jones goes with Bond into the pipeline for reasons, yada, yada, yada. They're both hurt by the betrayal and want to stop her. Doesn't have to be romantic between Jones and Bond. They're just fellow scorned exes. I still think it's easier to pull her out and let Q cook in this movie because, again, it's his last movie. Give him a little more screen time, even if he's just like giving orders to his protege in the pipe. I think that works.
I do like the idea of her being an unwitting go-between between Elektra and Reynard. It just adds one extra layer
of betrayal.
Of betrayal and of obfuscation for us and Bond to try to solve the groovy mystery.
Make it a little less straightforward, as was one of Tack's criticisms there.
And if I may offer a mild defense of Denise Richards, she's fine in this movie. I know, the thing that a lot of people talk about is like, oh, it's Denise Richards' breasts are in starring in The World Is Not Enough, and I don't know, you can be a hot, sexy nuclear scientist, nothing wrong with that, and she does a fine job at that. The biggest problem is her main stage direction was to arch her back. Then that's that's not her fault.
And also, other than disarming the bomb in the tube, which barely happens, she doesn't have a lot to do. She's pretty much just there for technobabble, which is already sort of happens to the expert characters in these movies. But I'm like, wow, literally everything out of her mouth is exposition dumps and technobabble.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that might be one of the reasons why, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, Anita forgot how pivotal she is to the plot. She thought she was in one scene. And totally didn't remember that she's actually in most of the back half of this movie.
Although she does sniff out Bond as being a spy.
Correct. She blows his cover.
Yeah. So she did get to do something kind of cool.
That is fair. Aaron comments, the craftsmanship of Elektra's strangulation machine is top notch. You don't often see marquetry like that on your average strangulation machine. Nowadays, your average flat pack strangulation machine just falls to pieces when you're trying to deal with dissonance and secret agents.
It made us laugh quite a bit because it's such a weird torture device, the way that it looks, but it's so ornate. It's just,
I mean, the Byzantines knew how to craft a torture device. What can I say?
And you want to do it's one of those things where just kill him, just put a bullet in his head and kill him.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Every movie, not even every Bond movie, every action movie has the needless toying that is also the downfall of the villain. I'm never going to be the one to say, oh, why would you use an ancient torture device instead of just killing him? But it is a weird you can have any dumb, arbitrary toying with the hero when they think they've got the upper hand, and you went with single pole strangulation neck thing.
Yeah.
They blew all the budget on the fan boats with parachutes.
Yep.
And the hot air balloon. Yep.
Yeah, you can't fly that over the Thames for free, that's for sure.
Great. Well, the world may not be enough, but I have had enough of this movie.
Yeah, I think we actually came up with a pretty slick fix that made the movie much more interesting, and then also came up with a pitch for an entirely different but interesting Bond movie. So double duty in this one, guys.
Queen and country.
Bond, how British am I? Sorry, that's a joke specifically for Anita. You can cut that out.
I was like, what is this a reference to?
Yeah, I'm I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Super Ego. It's from the comedy podcast Super Ego. There was an ongoing joke about Ian Fleming being concerned with how British he was, and there's a bit where it's M as Ian Fleming just asking Bond if he's very British. Again, cut all of this out. This is for
other than
one
I highly
member.
recommend Super Ego. I have never. I don't remember that particular detail, but I love Super Ego, and we'll have to geek out about that later.
Plugs?
Oh, sorry. I got distracted there. So yeah, you wanted to get out of the movie. We came up with the second movie, so we did double duty. But with that said, you could pitch us entirely new movies as well on all of our social medias. You can check us out on Blue Sky, where I have some notes, .bluesky.social, where I have some notes pod over on Instagram, where I have some notes on Facebook. But the real place to get in touch with us is over on our Discord. It's really hopping over there. There's lots of great conversation going on day to day. You can find a link to that right now in the profile of all of the social media accounts I just mentioned, or at ihavesomenotes.com. And of course, as always, you give us a little rating and review on your podcatcher of choice, because that helps us out just a little bit.
You can also visit patreon.com/ihavesomenotes and become an armchair screenwriter. Just $4 a month, you can show us your appreciation for what we do here, help us fund this endeavor, and enjoy the occasional bonus content we put up there when we have things to say that are good enough to paywall. Mostly it's just a way for you to say thank you, and we thank you back in return. Specifically, Sharon, Karen, Tack, Josh, and Robin. We appreciate your support.
Yeah. And we'll be back, as always, because we've heard tell that there's going to be another Simpsons movie on the way. We're going to take on that 2007 movie that everybody hated, the Simpsons movie.
Until then, I'm Liam Creswick.
I'm Scott C. Bourgeois.
And I'm Greg Beaver. Keep watching the skies.